Exposed my friend for secretly filming my husband for TikTok fame behind his back. Now she's playing the victim for sympathy. I, 28F, am friends with this girl, let's call her June, also 28F.
In fact, my husband, 32M, and I often hang out with June and her boyfriend, go on double dates, have weekend trips etc. We've known each other for over 2 years.
I would say that we four were pretty tight as a group, up until this weekend. My husband is an orthodontist. One of his patients is June's half-sister, Rhea, 12F. June often is the one accompanying Rhea to her dental appointments. June is also a small-time online influencer. She's always recording and vlogging and stuff. Though my husband and I have made it clear to her and we're absolutely not okay with our faces in her vlogs online, and she seemed to respect that boundary. We don't use social media, apart from Reddit, and we trusted her word when she said she's not gonna post us online. Cut to last weekend, my brother sent me this TikTok link with the message, "Dude, you gotta watch this." I opened the link and it directed me to June's TikTok account. She doesn't have much followers, less than 10K, but the particular video he sent me had like 500,000 views/likes, I'm not sure which. Lo and behold, it was a video compilation of my husband with the title "God, I See What You've Done for Others." The video was honestly the creepiest thing I've ever seen. She had recorded my husband during various of our double dates together, and it was clear he wasn't even aware he's being recorded. In some of the clips, she would start with her face and then pan the camera towards my husband with a cutesy expression and mouthing words like "oh my god." The worst one was where he was working on her half-sister, Rhea, wearing scrubs, and she'd recorded even that. She didn't even bother to blur out the kid's face while she was lying on the dental chair. I showed the video to my husband and he was horrified. He said it made him so uncomfortable and violated knowing that someone had been secretly recording him. He was angry that she'd recorded him working on a patient. He texted her asking to take down the video and delete every video she has of him. First she feigned ignorance, then she said that she meant no harm and that it was all for online engagement since, I quote, "TikToks with hot guys go viral very fast," and that she'd gained a lot of followers after posting that. This was also weird, but my husband and I got our families and friends to report the video and thankfully it's being taken down now. This pissed off June and she sent me a long-ass text saying how I was jealous of her online success and that I couldn't stand seeing her succeed blah blah blah. I replied saying, "You are delusional and unhinged. You're not successful and you'll never be. Stay away from us, you creepy weirdo." Now she's all weepy and depressed and has been telling our common friends how mean I was to her. She's also been posting about mental health on her socials and about how mean some women are with their words lol. Ada? Update 1. The parents have responded. They are shocked and very, very apologetic. They have agreed to chaperone Rhea on her appointments instead of June. They wanted to meet my husband personally to apologize, but he informed them that that won't be necessary. 2. June's TikTok video is still in the process of being taken down. No new updates on that. I guess she contested the reports or something. I'm not entirely sure. My husband and I have blocked her. My brother is keeping an eye on her account though, just in case she posts something else about us. We'll see what to do when it happens. We're gonna be consulting a lawyer if she bothers us again in the future. 3. My husband is kinda shaken up /upset /annoyed about this whole thing. He's taken some days off from work and so have I. We'll plan a trip somewhere maybe, to take his mind off of these things. Right now, I need to be there for him. I won't be posting anything for now. 4. We haven't contacted her boyfriend yet. My husband is not in the right headspace right now and I feel it'll be better if we focus on ourselves for the time being. We don't want the added headache of how the boyfriend will react / if he's in on this or whatever. We'll inform him after some time. I know this is selfish but I think it's for the best. Update 2. We thought the drama was done, but nope. We filled June's boyfriend in on everything, and he was shocked, hurt, and confused. Turns out, June managed his social media, and he had no clue what she was posting. He thanked us, and we thought that was it. But then he asked to meet up, saying he needed to discuss something. To be honest, we were extremely hesitant to meet with him. We were so done with the drama and didn't want to get sucked back in. But, he seemed genuinely concerned and willing to listen, so we agreed. At the meeting, he revealed he'd confronted June. She broke down, professed her love, and claimed her obsession with my husband was for social media clout. Apparently, his total package made for great content. When he asked to see her phone, she refused. So, he checked her laptop and found hundreds of sneaky photos and videos of my husband. And, for laughs, she had pics of me looking my absolute worst, mouth open while eating, weird faces, the works. I think I'm pretty good looking, but these photos were the opposite. It's like she wanted to prove a point about my husband's ugly wife. June's boyfriend dumped her. But, honestly, we're even more freaked out now. The scale of her obsession is terrifying. Hundreds of photos and videos? That's not just a crush, that's fixation. The thought of her escalating to something more is keeping us up at night. As a small consolation, June's boyfriend made her delete the videos from her social media and laptop. But, God knows how many more copies she has. Despite June not reaching out after all this went down, we're still on high alert. Her radio silence is kinda unnerving, and we're bracing ourselves for whatever might come next. Hopefully it is in fact just for social media clout, not some weird baby reindeer type obsession with my husband. It's kinda unsettling how she was friends with me for over 2 years. We hung out often, we've gone on weekend trips with her and her boyfriend, we have so many mutual friends, and yet no one knew she's doing this behind our backs. Either I'm bad at reading people or she's very good at being sneaky and deceptive. I'm also mentally kicking myself for not realizing that someone was taking pictures of me. I feel my husband and I both need to be less dumb and more aware of our surroundings lol. On a brighter note, Rhea's parents are super thankful to my husband for still treating Rhea after everything. Update 3. When I posted about June's thing for my husband a month ago, I thought it was just some weird crush. Now? It's flat out terrifying. The day after my last post, my husband got a super creepy message from a random number. You have got it all wrong. Please meet me. I'll make you understand. We freaked. Lawyers and cops are on it, trying to get a restraining order. Both our workplaces have ramped up security, and we've warned friends and family to keep an eye out. This whole thing is destroying my husband's mental health. He's anxious 24/7, wondering if he's being followed. He's stopped going to work because the feeling of being watched is overwhelming. We're trying to prioritize his safety. And honestly, it's breaking my heart. The other night, he broke down in tears. I've never seen him cry before. It was shattering. He's been talking to a therapist online, trying to cope with the stress and anxiety. But even that's not easing his mind. He's consumed by fear for my safety, constantly worrying that June will harm me to get to him. We're covering our bases, security cams, dash cams, the whole works. And I've scoured our home twice for any hidden devices. Thank God, all clear. If things get worse, we're prepared to up and move. Honestly, it's better to have a life in a different state than be dead here. It's heartbreaking to think about leaving our friends, family, and everything behind, but we'll do what it takes to stay safe. Some of the advice on here was really helpful, and I've done most of what was suggested. Update 4. After not hearing from June for 3 weeks, things took a really creepy turn on Friday. We hadn't heard a word from her, so we both got a little more relaxed about the whole situation. We went back to work, and everything seemed fine, but turns out, we were wrong. My husband went to the store after work to grab some groceries. He had no idea June was following him, but when he got to the parking lot, there she was. As soon as he saw her, he tried to get to his car as quickly as possible, but she was already closer and blocked the way to the door. He tried to walk away, but she stepped in front of him, begging him to talk to her. She kept saying it was just a harmless crush and that she'd leave us alone if he'd just listen. She even said, "Please, talk to me." He didn't respond and kept trying to walk away, but she wouldn't let him. She begged again and reached into her coat pocket. My husband heard a metallic sound and instantly thought she might be pulling out a weapon. In a split second, he grabbed her hand to stop her and pushed her away with force. She lost her balance and fell down, but he didn't stick around. He quickly jumped in his car and sped off as fast as he could. Thankfully, she didn't follow him. After getting away, my husband immediately contacted the police. They managed to get security footage from the parking lot, and it shows 2 people, a man and a woman, running towards the car. After a short while, the man pushes the woman down and quickly gets in the car, speeding off. The footage wasn't super clear, but it shows the general sequence of events. Of course, it's still not totally clear what she was planning or what she had on her, but the situation was extremely tense. We've been trying to get a restraining order against her, and hopefully, this time we'll get it, but we're not entirely sure how things will unfold now. We're also moving to my parents' home country for a while just to feel safer and take a step back from everything. It's going to be tough rebuilding our lives from scratch, but I guess that's what's in our destiny. Update 5. Out of nowhere, June sent me a bizarrely crafted letter in the mail. Yes, an actual handwritten letter like it's the 19th century. It was 10 pages long and written in a mixture of flowery prose and unhinged rambling. She started by apologizing for any distress she may have caused and claimed she never meant to hurt us. But then, it devolved into a delusional fantasy where she described how she felt a spiritual connection with my husband and believed it was destined by the universe for them to be together. She referred to me as an obstacle to the inevitable and suggested I should step aside gracefully. The kicker? She attached a photo collage of all the creepy photos she's taken of him over the years, complete with glittery stickers and hearts doodled all over. The level of obsession sent shivers down my spine. We thought we'd finally dealt with her TikTok shenanigans after her account was banned for violating privacy policies. But nope, June went ahead and made a new account under a pseudonym, where she started uploading bizarre, cryptic videos. One of them featured a montage of her walking around familiar places like my husband's workplace and the park near our house, with captions like "just waiting for fate to intervene." Thankfully, my brother, the unofficial investigator in this saga, caught wind of her new account and flagged it immediately, but knowing she can just keep creating accounts has left us constantly on edge. Here's where things hit an all-time low. My husband was working a late shift one night, and I was home alone. Around 9 p.m., I got a frantic call from his colleague saying that June had shown up at the clinic. She claimed she had an emergency with her teeth and insisted that only my husband could treat her. When the receptionist told her he was busy, June caused a full-blown scene, screaming, crying, and demanding to see him. Security had to escort her out, but not before she yelled, "You'll regret this when he's mine." That incident solidified just how dangerous she's become. We immediately reported it to the police, and our lawyer is working overtime to get a restraining order expedited. 2 days later, we woke up to find a box on our porch. Inside was a collection of handwritten notes, each one more unsettling than the last. Some were love letters addressed to my husband, while others were hate-filled diatribes about me. The scariest part? There was a pair of scrubs in the box that didn't belong to my husband. Where did she even get those? We handed the box over to the police, who are investigating it as evidence. One of the most bittersweet outcomes of this ordeal is how our mutual friends have reacted. Most of them have been incredibly supportive and have cut ties with June completely. However, a few tried to downplay her behavior, calling her misunderstood or just emotional. Let me be clear, if you think stalking, harassment, and delusional fantasies are just emotional, then you need help too. We've distanced ourselves from those people and are focusing on the ones who genuinely have our backs. We're officially moving abroad. After much discussion, my husband and I decided that starting fresh in a new country is the only way we'll feel safe. My family overseas has been incredibly supportive, helping us find housing and jobs. It's heartbreaking to leave behind the life we've built here, but at this point, our safety and sanity have to come first. We've also hired a private security firm to help us transition smoothly and ensure June doesn't try to follow us. Yes, it's that serious. I never imagined a simple friendship could spiral into this level of chaos. June's obsession has taken over every aspect of our lives, and while we're doing everything we can to protect ourselves, the emotional toll is immense. My husband is still in therapy, and I'm considering joining him because this entire ordeal has been traumatic for both of us. Now on to second story. Refused to let a stranger give birth in my bedroom because it's my house now, but my friend called me cruel. I, 26, bought the house I'm living in 2019 from this lovely older couple. I thought, as I'm sure anyone who has been in this situation might think, that the signing was going to be the last time I ever say them, or had anything to do with their family. I was wrong. Yesterday, I got a knock on my door. I opened it to find a young couple, probably my age, maybe a bit younger. The woman was pregnant, and looked like she was going to pop any day. I asked who they were, and if I could help them. The woman replied that this home used to belong to her parents, and that she was born in this house. I asked again what it was that they wanted, since that didn't really tell me if they needed anything from me. She told me that her mother had also been born here, in the upstairs bedroom. For context, this is now my bedroom. She then asked if I wouldn't mind letting her bring the stuff that was needed to give birth in the same spot as she and her mother were both born in. I said no, keeping in mind that A, this isn't her or her parents' house anymore, and B, that the bedroom in question is my bedroom. Now, I thought that this was as normal as a response as was possible given the strange question, but when I was telling my friends about this afternoon, one of the girls in the friend group said that it was pretty cruel of me to tell a pregnant woman where she can and can't give birth. I didn't think that what I had said was all that strange, considering I had never met the couple before, and I don't exactly want a strange woman giving birth where I sleep, but my friend insists that I could have come to some sort of arrangement. So here I am, asking yous guys. Ida? Edit, so I would just like to add, my friend isn't an idiot. When we were having this conversation, we were, let's say, having a fun time with fun substances. When I asked her about it today, she genuinely thought she'd imagined the conversation. Obviously, she thinks it's a horrible idea for liability and health reasons, aside from it being weird. And for those concerned that she's getting high as a nurse, she's off for the next 2 weeks, she's flying home for the holidays, so we were having a little get-together for those of us who are leaving for home. And for those saying that I made this up, I wish I had an imagination that good, I'd start writing if I did. I couldn't have predicted or come up with something like this in 100 years. Edit 2. I got an email back from the previous owners. I managed to get their contact info from the realtor who sold the house. It turns out yes, they have a daughter, yes, apparently she is actually pregnant, and they have cut her off for being a bit on the crazy side. So yeah, I asked for anything that might be helpful for getting any kind of protection order for my house, but the cops have said that unless she actually tries anything, there isn't anything they can do. So, I guess on Monday, I get to talk to someone in my county's court system to deal with this. Update 1. The apparent daughter of the previous owners of my house came to my door a little bit ago and asked if she could give birth in my bedroom. Honestly, it's as crazy as it sounds. Reading my original post won't make it make much more sense. A couple of things before I get into it. Some friend Shave shown me that the post has indeed broke Reddit containment, and pointed a few things out to me. So I'm gonna set a few things straight. Most other websites assume I'm a woman. I am NB, and will not elaborate further on that point. Not being snippy about it, but I just wanted to set the record straight, lol, on that point. Second thing, some people have assumed this was fake-based and that I probably made up the scenario because they think I think it's hot. No, I don't. I think the entire scenario is creepy and off-putting. And lastly, yes, I know that 21 is pretty young to be buying a house, and made the whole thing seem fake. I live in the Midwest, which is pretty cheap to begin with. It's not a huge house, and I got a small claim after an incident at work, so I use the money from that for my future. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say. I know some people will still assume I've made the whole thing up, or used chat to make it, but that said, if you don't think this is real, just move on with your day. I truly wish it wasn't real. Last note, there were a couple of people asking why I got the cops involved with the original incident, and I only got them involved when the original homeowners told me that the woman was a bit on the loose screw side of things, so I did that. Because when you are told that the person who came to your door might have been a bit unhinged, you take that step for your own peace of mind. Anyway, last week Friday, at about 1:30, I get a knock/heavy pounding at my door. I go and answer, wondering just who the hell would be visiting me in the middle of the night, when I see a familiar face at the door. It's the pregnant woman, with her husband/boyfriend/partner, I don't know what, and two women, who I assume are midwives. From what I gather, the woman went into labor earlier that day, and is hoping I changed my mind. I haven't and asked them all to leave. The woman starts having either a breakdown, or a contraction or something, because she just starts screaming on my driveway. One of the other women in the group explains to me that they drove 4 hours to get here, and if I wouldn't mind letting them set up? She tells me that the woman had told them that she had arranged for the house, and that she was nearly ready to push. From what I understood, the woman had lied to her midwife about me agreeing to this, and had essentially tried to trick her into forcing me into letting this happen in my house. I tell her a firm no, and that if needed, there's a hospital only 5 minutes away from where I live, the same hospital my friend works at from my original post. No, she wasn't there, she was on vacation at the time, and asked them all to leave. The woman starts screaming and crying about how I'm ruining this for her, but between me closing and locking the door, her partner, and her midwives, she gets back into their van and drive off. I don't know if this was a guilt trip, or if they were delusional or what, but here's the thing about me. I am an absolute pushover. I probably would have just pretended to be asleep and not even opened the door and waited them out. But here's the thing, I had a different friend, her wife and their highly autistic child spending the night on their way back home after the holidays. I'm cheaper than a hotel, lol, all the noise and commotion, plus the unexpected midnight visitor severely triggered the kid, and it took nearly 2 hours to calm her back down enough to get her to sleep. She's a good kid, and means the world to my friends, so having someone else who would have been severely affected by this, I managed to find a bit of my spine, which is why I wound up opening up the door to ask them to leave. Honestly, I shouldn't have even opened the door and just called the cops first thing, but the good news is that after a couple of minutes talking to the midwife, she agreed to take the whole show elsewhere. After they all left, I did call the police on the non-emergency line, and update them on what was going on, and gave them the footage of the previous incident and the latest video I have the incident. I'm really hoping that now she's given birth, that she'll leave me alone. Either way, in addition to my Ring camera, I've asked my neighbor to keep an eye out, and call me if anything happens while I'm at work. I also got deadbolts to install for all of my exterior doors. I changed the locks when I bought the house, which honestly seemed to have been a good idea, but this is just to make me feel a bit better about the whole thing. Update 2. So, remember how I was hoping that now that the woman, let's call her A, has given birth, she'd leave me alone? Yeah, no such luck. If anything, things have escalated in ways I could not have predicted. For starters, I thought that after my midnight encounter with A and her entourage, they'd move on with their lives. That hope lasted precisely 4 days. It started with small things. I noticed a car parked across the street from my house for long stretches of time. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a neighbor's visitor or someone just taking a phone call. But then I realized it was the same car, every single day, parked at weird times like 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. It was a beat-up sedan, nothing too noticeable, but I decided to jot down the license plate, just in case. Then, I started receiving letters. Not in the mailbox, those are easy to ignore, but tucked under my front door. The first one was a long, handwritten note from A herself. She went on about how she believed it was her destiny to give birth in this house and how I'd broken the chain by denying her the opportunity. She ended the letter by saying she still wanted her baby to be connected to its roots and asked if she could have a few photos of my bedroom to show her child where their journey began. No. The second letter, though, was what really rattled me. It wasn't from A but from her husband or partner, who we'll call B. His tone was different, almost apologetic. He wrote that he didn't fully support A's obsession with my house and admitted he'd only gone along with it to keep her calm during her pregnancy. But now, he said, she was even more fixated and had started talking about alternative plans to connect their child to the house. He didn't elaborate on what those plans were but said he was just giving me a heads up. Needless to say, I was thoroughly creeped out. Then, the most surreal thing happened. Last Thursday, I came home from work to find my backyard gate wide open. At first, I thought it was the wind, but when I walked into the backyard, I found A and her baby sitting under the tree in my yard. She'd laid out a blanket and was having what looked like a picnic. I was so stunned I just stood there for a second, trying to process what I was seeing. When she noticed me, she didn't even look guilty. Instead, she smiled and said, "I hope you don't mind. I just wanted the baby to feel the energy of this place." I told her, very firmly, that I did mind and she needed to leave immediately. I started crying, again, and said I was being heartless and that she'd only planned to stay for a little while. She even offered to pay me rent to use the backyard occasionally. By this point, I was done with being polite. I told her to leave, or I'd call the cops. She packed up her stuff, but not before muttering something about how I was making this harder than it needed to be. That same evening, I finally decided to escalate things. I filed for a restraining order against A between the midnight labor stunt, the letters, and the backyard incident. I had more than enough evidence to make my case. When I went to court, I included the emails from the previous homeowners confirming they'd cut A off for being unstable, the footage from my Ring camera, and both letters I'd received. Here's where it gets even crazier. During the court hearing, A showed up to contest the restraining order. She claimed that I was blowing things out of proportion and said she had no intention of harming me or my property. Her argument? She was acting out of love and tradition, and I was depriving her child of its legacy. She even brought her baby to the hearing, as if that would somehow sway the judge. Thankfully, the judge saw right through her act. The restraining order was granted, and A was instructed to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my house, and my property at all times. You'd think this would be the end of it, right? Wrong. 2 days later, my neighbor texted me a photo of A's car parked down the street. She wasn't on my property, so technically she wasn't violating the restraining order, but it was clear she wasn't ready to let this go. I've since installed additional security cameras around my property and hired a company to put in a tall privacy fence around my yard. As for me, I'm oscillating between being furious and just plain exhausted. I've lived in this house for 5 years, and until A showed up, it was my sanctuary. Now, I jump at every knock on the door or sound outside at night. My friends keep joking that I should write a book or sell the movie rights to this whole ordeal, but honestly, I'd trade all of that for just a little bit of peace. If there's one silver lining, it's this: the restraining order has given me some breathing room. For now, I'm focusing on reclaiming my space and trying to move forward. But if A keeps pushing, I'm prepared to escalate things again. Stay tuned.